based upon what you heard in the oral arguments, what will be the principled reasons why, if the six decide to overturn the Chevron deference doctrine, what will be their what will their argument be? And I imagine it won't be necessarily cohesive amongst the six, but they'll all have their own flavor.
Yeah, so there were two kind of competing arguments going. There was the what I call the nihilist wing, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, who are just they're just done with it. They think it's a separation of powers issue, that the executive has taken power away from Congress, and they want to quote, give it back to Congress. This is that core conservative lie that they are giving power back to Congress, as opposed to the reality of taking power for the judiciary itself. So that's the four of them. Roberts and Barrett, who going into the argument I had some hope would at least uphold precedent, because, you know, we haven't even talked about this, Sam and Emma, but like, it's a 40-year-old case. Normally, you know, precedent is supposed to be a thing in the Supreme Court, right? So they
already knocked out a 50-year-old individual right. They could do a 40-year-old doctrine. Are you kidding?
Cares about that, right? So I had actually hoped that Roberts and Barrett would be more about defending precedent. They were not. But they seem to be arguing that getting rid of Chevron is not a big deal. The reason why I know that there have been 17,000 cases decided on Chevron is because Prelogar the Solicitor General had to say that to John Roberts when he was like, we don't really use Chevron deference anymore anyway. It's not really a big idea. So I think what Roberts and Barrett will say is that Chevron is not overturned, it's just been misinterpreted. And they're going to go back to an earlier interpretation called Skidmore about the administrative state that allows the court to basically intervene whenever it feels like it, whenever it feels the executive agencies have gotten it wrong. So I think that's how they're going to try to soft sell it. And then it'll be a competition to see whether or not Gorsuch writes an opinion that destroys Chevron completely that can get Barrett and Roberts. Or if he can't, then Roberts and Barrett will write something a little bit more mealy-mouthed to kind of have the same effect, but not with the same level of stridentness that Gorsuch would go with.
Are they going to use like the major questions doctrine, which I should say, just for people who don't know, it existed, but in a very different fashion since 2000, not that long ago, and has only in the past couple of years, really since the Biden administration, become something that the court basically says, here's my get out of free jail card, whatever it is. Like, this is my special wild card, and we're just going to put it down here.
Yeah, that didn't come up a lot. If Gorsuch gets to write this opinion, people need to understand that, you know, I brought up his mom. Gorsuch has been on a crusade against Chevron deference for his entire career. It is why he is on the Supreme Court. It is the thing that made him famous amongst Republicans, his strident opposition to Chevron deference against the will of his predecessor, Antonin Scalia, who, you know, like I said, Republicans used to love Chevron deference, right? So if Gorsuch writes the opinion, like, it's going to be major, it could be very, very extreme. I don't know if he has a majority for the most extreme version of his opinion. So I don't think they're going to get to major questions doctrine. I think they're just going to do it on separation of powers, with Roberts saying, like, actually, and it's not a big deal.
Well, where's Alito in this then, too? I mean, I know that was in your piece a little bit about how he has changed his opinion on the issue, basically kind of going from where you talk about Scalia was to probably more in the Gorsuch camp now.
Yeah, Alito is down the clown with Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. He, in his oral arguments, he said, and I'm quoting, that Chevron deference was necessary in the past because judges used policy preferences to make decisions. But we don't do that anymore.
Oh, that's right. What just happened? What just happened last year? Yes.
Hey, abortion rights killed affirmative action, kills voting rights, all based on his personal political grievances. But apparently, Sam Alito, who spends, I swear to God, every night watching Fox News, can't consider his personal policy preferences when he makes decisions anymore. It was, again, blood spurting out of ears. Like, it was a ridiculous statement. But he is, to answer your question, Emma, he is absolutely down the clown with the other nihilists, because they don't want it to work. They don't actually want government to work, and they understand that this is the easiest way to make government not work and give themselves more power. I wrote in The Nation that the oral argument writ large was less like an argument and more like a coronation, with the court literally laughing with conservative super lawyer Paul Clement about how much power they were giving to themselves. It's they are crowning themselves kings and queens of the rest of the country.
And we should also say that, like, you know, the sort of knock-on impact of this is that if you are a corporate lawyer, a corporate litigator, this is like, I want to say like a job security act, but this is like you can be now, like, if this gig happens, they're all going to be going like, I think I'm just about to get myself a slightly bigger boat. Like, I mean, the business, from a business standpoint, this isn't just about judges saying I'm empowering myself. This is about like sort of the fundamental building block of the Federalist Society. This is their Jobs Act. I mean, this is their push me into the next tax bracket act, because it's off to the races on
tax
anything.
Bracket? Where we're going, we don't need no tax bracket. I mean, like,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Right? I mean, look, Harlan Crow ain't paying these people for nothing. Right? Like, the Republicans who buy Supreme Court justices are getting something for their money, and this is what they're getting. This is also why, just to go back to an earlier point, this is why when people say like, oh, well, they don't have business before the court. No. Wealthy Republican donors always have business before the court. They don't have to have their name on the case. And this is a classic example of that, because this helps their business in so many ways that it's worth it for however much they paid for Clarence Thomas's RV to get him on board for a thing like this, right? Like, it's the only break I will pump on this statement, Sam, is that there might be a level of be careful what you wish for, right? Republicans want this now. Corporate entities want this now, when they don't know what the law is, right? When you're Pfizer, right, and you're trying to put a new drug on the market, and you don't know what the FDA is going to do, because you don't know what, you know, crazy Christian Judge Kaczmarek in Texas is going to do. You don't know what Eileen Cannon's going to do, so you don't know if your drug is going to be legal. Maybe then you'll have some regrets about killing Chevron deference. But that is down the line. That is a down the line problem. The today solution is to get rid of it and make all the money and stick it in their ears.
Right. I mean, that's a business complication. At the end of the day, though, everybody else loses in both scenarios. Yes. Right. Like, I mean, just because Pfizer doesn't have the opportunity to maximize their profit on a drug that may save people's lives. I mean, everybody loses in that situation in terms of that drug that could have been meaningful. But I'll tell you something, like, whatever Coke Industries, if this thing, I'm convinced that you will be able to look at the stock market and pick out those industries that are just going to go straight to the moon the day after this ruling, or maybe, depending on how late in the day it comes.